because okay, we've talked about lists, is that right? Now let's talk about the tags which you should just know. I'm just going to talk about them because they are there and you can practice them. Like we've talked about paragraph, right? We've talked about H1, right? Now there's a tag called as H2, H3, H4, H5 and H6. There are 6 headings. Is that okay? But those 6 headings are not that, okay, I want a smaller heading, I want a smaller size, I use them. No. If you think, let's say I was going to talk about myself, is that right? So let's say I'm just going to do that there so that you understand that concept. So let's say it's about is that right? Now that's the title I've given to my page. Is that okay? And I am going to write down so, do you understand? That's my first heading. I'm talking about my life here as a whole. Is that right? So that's your H1. You're talking about your life as whole. So that's H1. But now if I want, now I can write down here is that okay? So that's a paragraph. Now if I want to divide that into sections or I want to write down more about it, then I will have to have, I can have H2, is that okay? But that's my, let's say my childhood. Another H2 is going to be is that okay? But within H2 now, I can have, I'm going to talk about as in, I want to divide my childhood as school, primary, secondary, whatever. Is that right? So I can write down whatever I want to write down here, but H3 will only describe what? I can have more H3s inside that. So what I will have to go back and obviously write in here. Does that make sense? In H2. But what are these? These are sections within sections. So H2 is a subsection. Is that okay? H2 is a subheading in your main page. So how many main subheadings do you want to have? So I want to have main 4 subheadings in my life: childhood, youth, marriage, and children. Is that right? So those are my subheadings. Those are my 4 subheadings. So they are all H2s. Is that right? Yeah. And now if within childhood I want to explain further and I want to break it down in a further path, I will use H3. Now why is that? It's just like having a look at the book. If you're reading a book, you have a chapter title. That's a heading. Okay. Right? And then you would have sections where, there is a explanation of something. So they have titles and within that something. So exactly on your HTML page, you are talking about this information is within this area and it has got sub-levels. So all these heading 1, heading 2 and heading 3, 4, 5, 6, they are all sub-levels. Does that make sense? So they should be used accordingly. Not because I just want to change the size or just because it is going to go underneath. That's not what it is. These are very important. Headings are very important from another aspect also. People who do not have, people are looking this information on the browser. But there could be people who are visually impaired, right? And they have audio or an oral browser which converts their page into a reading software. Is that right? That jumps sections. Actually, it tells them this is the page you're going to go through. These are the sections in it. Which section do you want to read? Or which section do you want to hear? Understand? So that will jump from H1, go to H2, and then that's how it actually tells them where to go. Do you understand? So headings are very important, not for the sizes, it's the layout or the construction of your page.
We have to need more than 6 headings.
Sorry?
We have to need more than 6 headings.
Six sub-levels.
We have to need more.
No. 6 sub-levels are too much actually. 6 sub-levels are too much. That means I'm going in such a depth. You usually don't go in that depth. 6 is like, because you would need so many things inside to go down to that level. That only comes in very technical topics. Does that make sense? Otherwise, in general description, we never go down to those levels. 3 are too difficult. Like, 3 levels itself are too much for putting that information in. Is that okay? So H1, H2, and H3. Is that okay? Okay. Now let's say in this, I want to highlight the word childhood. Is that right? I want to highlight the word childhood by making it bold, or I want to underline that. Is that okay? So I have a tag called as U to underline, and I only want to underline the word childhood, so I close that U here. Right? So let's let me just show you how does it look like. Now my life, some gems, some stones is my heading. This is H1. This is a paragraph. That's H2. Is that right? And that's H2 as well, isn't it? So youth, marriage and children were H2s. Primary year is a H3. And can you see the word childhood which is underlined? Yeah, the word childhood is underlined there. Is that okay? So there is a tag U for underlining. Yeah. And H2 and H3 are just for subheadings. You just need to know. Your website will have multiple headings, but your page, a web page, will only have one H1. Because usually your page will only talk about the same thing. You will have subsections in it, which will mean H2s, but your page should have only one H1. Is that okay? Yeah. Okay, that's fine. Do you want to try a headings?